Hello, good evening. I think we're live. I hope we are. Can you type something into the chat box if you can see me and hear me, please? Hopefully that's all working fine. And if it is, we'll be starting in about 1 minute's time. So I just confirm that the audio visual is as it should be, please. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much. All right, good. Just give people one more minute and then we'll get cracking. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. Pretty miserable here in Hackney. It's been a nice day actually, but just in the last 20 minutes or so, the rain's come in and it's teeming down now. It's good weather for ducks, as they say. We got quite a lot to go through. I'll quickly whiz through the agenda, and then we're going to go to a live race before too long. So going to be sort of chopping and changing around between talking about Geegeez and looking at some races and various other things, which hopefully will keep it entertaining and hopefully you'll be able to follow along with. So we'll just give people another 30 seconds or so and then we'll get cracking. Hello to those people who have written in the chat box there: Troy and Lonesome Star, Brian, Alan, the Glorious Uncertainty. Ah, yes, indeed. Welcome all, and welcome to those. Says we're up to 35 in real time at the moment. I appreciate it's kind of an early start. Some people at work or maybe having tea or dinner, whichever one it is you do, and that kind of thing. So the recording will be available if and when you've had enough of me, but hopefully there'll be enough meat on the bone to keep you entertained for a while at least. All right, I think it's I think now is a good time to kick off. And this is going to require me to do something vaguely technical, which normally doesn't go as well as I would have it. I think that's sort of working. Hopefully you can see the instant expert there. Let me just check on here. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Okay. All right, good. Right. So what are we doing today? Well, quite a bit. We are going to be looking at these things here. Let me put them in the window. I very much hope that you can see this now. So we are going to be looking at some live races. There are 3 races that I think I'd like to look at. I had initially intended to look at more, but there's quite a lot to get through, and I appreciate, everyone's time is valuable, and this sort of time of day there are other things going on, such as eating and spending time with family and stuff. So let's try and we'll stick to these 3, I think. I would have done the session later, I should say that, but obviously I wanted to get some of the evening racing in, and it's not sufficiently we're not sufficiently into the season yet for the races to run to sort of 8-9 o'clock. So we are where we are with that. I'm just going to very quickly tell you a bit about me and Geegeez, and then we're going to look at setting up Geegeez, how you get started, because I think, it's kind of, I know myself, I'm always tempted to kind of race into stuff and take me straight to the meat of the action, but sometimes we need to just take a few moments to get our bearings and see what's going on. So we'll look at that, and then we'll look at how I set up for a day's racing. I don't go straight to the race cards. There are a few things that I want to know about before looking at the race cards, because they can have a very material impact, not just on the racing, but more importantly, perhaps, on the way other people are looking at the racing compared to how I am. So I always want to to do those few small things before I get started. We talked briefly about race selection, which is something that I think is hugely underrated. And basically, if you get this nearly right, you're giving yourself a much better chance of A, having fun, and B, making a profit. And that's why we're here, for both of those things. So we'll also look at some races tomorrow. There are 3 races that I thought that had interesting angles to them. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm particularly strong on any of them, but there were some things that, some interesting horses for different reasons that I wanted to tease out there. And of course, in this webinar, I'm going to show you what's inside Geegeez Gold, and perhaps help you get some ideas about how you can use it for your own ends. So if that sounds reasonably okay, let me see where we are with the it's T, is it? Okay, yeah, fine. If that sounds okay, let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Matt Bisogno, as you probably know. I'm not very good with technology, as you probably know. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so I'm 51 years old now. Gosh, time flies. I've been doing this for a long time. I started online in 2006 with a little PDF report about trainers and tracks, and also a little blog site called Nag Nag Nag. In 2008, I started the website called Geegeez. So that's been going for 15 years. Well, it'll be 15 years in the summer, which is a pretty good stint, I think. So yeah, we've been around a while. When it started out, Geegeez was a blog site. We did betting system and service reviews. And then in about 2013, so yeah, about 10 years ago, we started the data project, which has become Geegeez Gold with the race cards and all that good stuff that you either already know about or about to find out about. Personally, I've been quite involved in racing. So I was, amongst other things, I've been chair of the Horse Racing Bettors Forum, and I was a founder member of that group, a group that seeks to help punters get a fair deal from bookmakers and from regulators and the sport generally. It's quite a challenging remit that they have at the forum, and I think on balance, given that they're always swimming against the tide, they're always asking things of people who want to say no. I think they do pretty well. There's still more work to do, of course. So I was on that. I also was involved in another BHA committee, one looking at integrity in the sport, and I still contribute behind the scenes to various things in a sort of sports politics, racing politics area, I suppose. As well as that, we syndicate horses through Geegeez. We've got a few horses. We've got one nice one with Ollie called Sure Touch, who's won a few races, and we're looking forward to seeing him over a fence in the summer. We've got another one with, and well, we've got 3 with Anthony, but one particular favourite is Coquelicot, and that photograph up there is of us happy campers post-race at Ascot at the start of this season. She subsequently won at Sandown and recently won on the flat at Nottingham, and hopefully she'll go close, if the weather's like this, at Ascot again in about 3 weeks' time, in the middle of May. So she's a bit of a superstar, and the great thing about the Geegeez syndicates is that they are other Geegeez Gold subscribers and readers who are involved in those syndicates with me, and yeah, we have a lot of fun. And you know, we've been very lucky recently with both Sure Touch and Coquelicot. Geegeez also sponsors, if you can, I don't know if you can see it, it's quite small, but Geegeez sponsors the racing stable of Anthony Honeyball Racing, from which Coquelicot is races out of, and also a few jockeys. We sponsor Marco Gianni and over jumps Ben Godfrey as well. So trying to get the name out on the racecourse and trying to put a little bit back into the sport as well, contribute to those players in the game. But mostly Geegeez is a race card and form tool community. And if I can make this work, let's see. You can see on here perhaps that we've been lucky enough to be awarded a few prizes down the years. Since 2017 we won the best betting website for the secret betting club, which became Smart Betting Club, I think 5 years in a row, and then last year we were runner up to Odds Checker, but we did win the inaugural best betting data resource, which is of course what we are. So that was great, and yeah, I got a bit of a prize as well. That was nice too. We also have won a bunch of other gongs from other websites. The only reason I tell you this is because these things are voted for by the wagering public, by the likes of yourselves. So you know, it's not a few grandees sitting around a table deciding which one's paid the most and will get the prize this month. It's these are actually racing people. So it's a popular resource and it's used by a lot of people. And if it's not already being used by you, I hope that you'll think about getting involved in the near future. Now, I'm conscious of the time. I've got a couple of minutes. I've got the TV on behind me so I can see. I've got a couple of minutes before this, the 5:15 at Ponty is on. And I really liked a horse last night, which has drifted like the proverbial barge. So that doesn't bode especially well for its chance. But in spite of that, I'm going to tell you about it anyway. The horse is called Refuge, and the first thing that drew me to it was the fact that let's just have a look at the graphic view here. It looked like he will be the early pace in the race. And I couldn't really see any other obvious pace, with the possible exception of Gannon Glory, who is drawn. I mean, Refuge is drawn fairly wide, but Gannon Glory is drawn even wider. The horses inside, none of them look like obvious pace contenders. The one exception to that is possibly Squeezebox. Now, Squeezebox is a really interesting horse. He's favourite and short, too short for me, because although he's changed stables to Mick Appleby now, see this TC, and he's making his handicap debut. And these are positives, as you can see there. I'll explain that a bit more later on. He has missed the break twice in his 4 starts. And if he misses the break here from an inside draw over 5 furlongs, he's going to be in a bit of trouble. If he doesn't miss the break, he might nearly win. And, you know, that's kind of the price he is assuming that that he won't miss the break. I'm not completely convinced by that. I could see a bit of a case for a couple of others. I thought John Kirkup, even though he's not an obvious one on recent form, he did win from stall 1 here a few years ago, and he's got stall 1 again. So that's ordered by draw there. You can see John Kirkup's in 1, Squeezebox is in 2. They're going in now. Anyway, the one that I liked and I backed it at 12 to 1 was Refuge. And I think my fate is sealed by how weak it is in the market. But we'll let's see. We'll see what happens. They look like they're nearly all in. Refuge is in the blue with the white stars and the yellow cap, and is trained by Mick and David Easterby, and ridden by Joanna Mason, who I think is Mick's granddaughter, and probably related to David as well. Well, definitely related. Right, that looks like a quirky start. John Kirkup's missed it. We are here with the white face trying to get forward. And Squeezebox, the favourite, has also missed it and is going to need a lot of luck in running from there. So, if nothing else, we kind of called that the favourite looked potentially poor value if it missed the break. This is raining something or other. This is our horse here. Very stiff finish here. The favourite is going to need to be Pegasus's brother to get. He's surely not getting a run up the rail. Will Refuge stay on for the place? No, is the answer. Quite a flat run, actually. Didn't get to the lead, but ran like the market suggested. Finishing 5th in the end. Squeeze box, extremely disappointing. You can't miss the break at Ponte over 5 from an inside stall and expect to win. So if you'd back that horse, excuse me, if you'd back that horse, your goose was cooked pretty early. My goose was cooked a little bit later, but was cooked nevertheless. I don't know what to make of that run. Like the market kind of implied that the horse was not expected. Mick and David are they generally know what they've got, what chance they have, and in spite of that, I thought I'd have a little nibble each way. That didn't go so well. I did have a little nibble each way on the Horse Profiles horse, which was, of course, Barishnikov in the 3 o'clock. In spite of that one also drifting like the proverbial canal vessel. As you can see, he was sent off 25-1, and this is these are his conditions. 10 furlongs. He actually won. I think he won this race last year. You can see 5th of April might have been the meeting before this time last year, but it's Class 2 handicap at Ponte on soft, and he won there quite comfortably from a wide draw held up. He had another wide draw here. He was held up again, deliberately slowly away. Probably wouldn't have won from a kinder draw and on softer ground, but he would have certainly been closer than that. He might actually drop a pound for being beaten 5 lengths there, and he will go almost certainly now to this race at Chester that he won last year, and he won the year before. So Barishnikov, you'd have to say that was a very good dress rehearsal for the Chester May meeting, 10 furlong handicap. And if you backed him each way, you got a bid of 25-4. What's that? About 6-1 for the place. So that's good, isn't it? So that was good. Yep. Okay, so that was Barishnikov, the Horse Profiles horse, and that was the 5:15, which didn't go as well as hoped. If you're still following me, let me just check where I am with all my stuff. Okay, I think we're good. So the next thing we're going to look at is setting up Geegeez. Yeah, okay. This is pretty important stuff. When you sign up, you will start here. In fact, let me log out so that I can show you the entire process. So if you're on the home page, the first thing to do is go to the login button at the top right. Click on that, you'll get a panel. You log in there. That's just going to take me to an admin page, which you don't need to see. Yep, so that's that. Just get rid of that one. And then where are we going? Right. So you, not being an admin, will be taken straight to the My Geegeez page, and it's quite a busy page. So let me just quickly talk around it. It's essentially 2 halves, and we'll come on to the options. The options are the important bit, but it is important also to understand the content on the left-hand side. So you can do all your account management stuff here if you need to change your password, or if you need to upgrade or downgrade your your account. If you need to cancel at any time, you can do that there. If you're new, you should read this first. That's why it says read this first. It's just a bit of background and things to look at straight away if you're keen to crack on. The user guide is updated on a regular basis whenever we add some new stuff to the site, which is frequently. We update the user guide to reflect that. It's a big doco, and I wouldn't advocate that anybody look at that from start to finish. But certainly if you're wondering how something works, you're very likely to find the answer in there. You can also download, so this is a web page on the site. You can download a PDF version locally if you would like to do that. If you want to know what's new, it's in this little accordion here. Then we've got loads of video stuff down here, and I would particularly draw your attention to the video snippets. This is a page consisting of loads of very short videos, sort of 2-minute videos, covering all kinds of things within our Geegeez Gold ecosystem. So if you prefer video to reading a PDF, then this is the page to come to. Again, it's linked to from the My Geegeez page. It's a bit far down the page. I'm probably going to move it a little bit higher up, give it a bit more prominence. I would definitely encourage you to look at some of those videos there. Now, if you want to make Geegeez Gold your very own, then you need to use the options on the right hand side here. So the top one will contain tracked horses, trainers, jockeys, and sires. If you've got any running, you can see a 0 there for me. So I haven't got any today, and that's why it's blank. But if I did have some, it wouldn't be blank. To set up your tracker options, use the one that says My Tracker Options, and in there you put in your email address, which can be different actually from your account email. So whatever email address you want to use, you can put in there, and then you choose whether you want to get emails about any or all of horses, trainers, jockeys, and sires, and whether you want the notifications for the next day, in other words, sent the night before, or at the 5-day stage. This is how I set mine up. And of course, you will set yours up how you want to. The My Notes and Ratings, I'll come back to this guy. My Notes and Ratings, if you want to create your own ratings, and lots of people do, and more people don't, either is fine, then you can do this here. You can basically set up your settings, so your pounds per length and your weight for age and all that kind of stuff under here, or you can just accept the defaults. And then when you've stored ratings and notes, you can download them as a CSV document there. So that's that. That won't be for most people, in fairness, but if you're that kind of person, then that's where you can do that stuff. This is for most people. Now, we have on our race cards, we've got lots of configurability. We've got lots of things that you can do to make Geegeez your Geegeez, or my Geegeez, my being you. So you can define the way the odds are displayed, either fractional or decimal, or you can hide them. So if you want to practice your tissue making ability, for instance, your ability to price up a race, you can click the hide option here, and then you won't see any odds on the card, and you can put your own prices in. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. If you look at a race card here, let's find a race card quickly. I've got one. Yeah. You'll see that we have quite a lot of icons, and behind all these icons, there is stuff which I'll quickly go through in a minute. But essentially, you will find within a few days that there are things that you use all the time. There are things that you use some of the time, and there are things that you never use. So if you don't use stuff, there's no point it being there. So you can hide it here. In my case, I actually don't use the My Ratings. I don't normally use head-to-head, and I don't use personally the bet tracker, although some people love the bet tracker and evangelize about it. And of course, some people love those other things as well. So that's how I set mine up. And if you look at that race card now, I'll quickly refresh it. you'll see that those icon sets look a lot less cluttered already. Just taking 3 out, and you can see they look less cluttered. If you don't have query tool angles or report angles, you can lose those numbers there. And again, you know, this is about, we want to give you an out of the box solution that is better than any other race card solution. But on top of that, we want to give you the power to decide how that looks for you, excuse me, how that looks for you and which things are important to you, and to be able to craft your race card experience in the way that suits you best. So that's why we do all this configuration stuff. Full form, number of race form rows to show. This is in the full form tab, and you can just, if you're on, for instance, trainer, I've got it, as you saw there, set up at 100 rows, and basically that's 100. That's Mick Appleby's last 100 form lines, last 100 runners. You can set this up to be, well, any number you want. So the default is 30, I think. I like to see a little bit more information if I can. Proximity form on or off. Proximity form is something that we traffic light for a horse. We traffic light its form profile. You can see down this side, down the left hand side here, we've got, in the case of Zealot, who has won a lot of races, he's got a lot of green traffic lights, and when he hasn't won, he's also got an amber here. And these are based on how close to the winner per furlong the horse was. So in this case, he was 3 3/4 behind the winner, and that works out as 0.47 lengths per furlong. So you can see there 3.75 lengths, and it was an 8.06 furlong, just over a mile race. So that's how that works. You don't need to know the mechanics. You just need to know that green is good, amber is okay, and red not so good. So that's something else that you can choose. More importantly, I think, are the instant expert configuration steps. And in this one, these are mine. So all of these are obviously my configuration setup. For instant expert, I personally want to look at the last 2 years data for the horses. If it's a handicap race, I want to see handicap data rather than all data. And I want to see the information for the race code that today's race is. So for instance, if it's a flat turf race, I want to see that information for flat turf races. So you can see that here, that is set up on 2 years, handicaps, flat handicaps. Some other people have all races and all codes, and maybe all prior history. When I'm looking at the form, I will change these around. I want to look at other things, but I'm most interested in the last 2 years and contextual data. And you can see, actually, if you look at this, the Pontefract race that Baryshnikov ran in, you know, he's kind of standing out quite a bit as a 25 to 1 shot. This is by no means an outlier in terms of how instant expert can help you. You know, it's kind of a blunt instrument in some ways, but in other ways it definitely cuts through a lot of the chaff to point out the relevant wheat, because these are the horses' form against today's going class, course distance and field size. This is what you need to know. The other stuff is, to some degree, arguably less important. So anyway, that's that. We have quite a few ratings on Geegeez. Ignore the GZ one. That's sort of an admin thing only. R1 is if you're using your own notes here, notes and ratings here, then you can choose to display those on the race card with the R1 option. Official rating, racing post rating, and top speed, and also our sectional timing upgrade figure are these. And you can view any or all of those on the card. And again, you can see that I have a subset. I've got official rating, racing post rating, top speed, and SR. This is Peter May's proprietary rating that we license. We are very soon going to be adding another rating, which is the BHA's performance rating. They very kindly allowed us to publish that, and that's kind of the BHA's racing post rating. So you won't see it for any horse that hasn't already got a handicap mark. So 2-year-olds first few runs, for instance, or indeed any horse first few runs, you won't see a performance rating from the BHA for that. They store them privately, but they don't share them publicly. So you will only see here what is publicly available on their site, but it's much more convenient to view it right in the card as you're looking. So I'm excited to share that, and I hope that will be available pretty soon, actually, maybe next week, but certainly pretty soon. That's coming. Okay. Bet tracker and some sectional stuff here. Now, if you are interested in sectional timing data, and again, it's not for everybody, but if you are interested in it, we currently store the TPD, total performance data, sectional stuff, and that is, if you want to quantify, is essentially the at the races tracks. I have heard rumors, fairly credible ones, that we might have access to the racing TV sectional data before too long. I'm very excited for that day, but I've heard these rumors a few times before, so I'm kind of not holding my breath at this stage. But hopefully we'll be able to display sectional data for all races rather than some. So we'll have all the jigsaw pieces to help you rather than half of the jigsaw pieces, which is not very helpful, is it? So that's sectionals. If you want to turn them on, the default is none, right? So if you're wondering why you can't see sectionals on the website, you need to go to the Racecard options section and you need to turn them on. I have it on data. There is a visual view as well, and you can have different sections here. If you want to know that stuff, it's all in the user guide. So these are the settings that you can use to configure Geegeez Gold to be the tool that you want it to be. Is there any way to rearrange the columns from left to right? No. You mean to have, what do you mean? Do you mean to have like more, to put, for instance, field size on the left-hand side, something like that? There isn't an option to do that, no. What are we going to do next? We're going to have a race in a minute. We've got a race at Naas. Did I want to look at this one? No. This is a 3-year-old handicap at Naas. I thought it was a very interesting race, but definitely not from a punting perspective. It's too difficult. It's this 6 furlong, I beg your pardon, race here, where Michael O'Callaghan seems to have a bit of a stranglehold on it. And he and Noel Mead between them have the first 4 in the market. Yeah, definitely too hard for me. Interesting for the future, but not for me. I do want to look at one in the 610 though, so we'll get to that later on. Let's move on to setting up for the day and a bit about expectation management as well. Let me just turn the screen off for a minute and you look at my ugly mug for a moment. One of the things about betting on racing generally, really, but Geegeez Gold particularly, I think, or you know, other form providers, we have to manage our own expectations about the art of the possible. You know, where are we now with our betting? If you're currently nearly breaking even, then it's definitely possible, using some better information either on Geegeez or somewhere else, it's definitely possible to get to breaking even or move into the profit zone. If you're currently breaking even, it's possible to move into the profit zone. If you're making a small profit, it's possible to move to making a slightly better profit. If you're losing loads, it's not possible to start winning loads. That's obviously that's not how life works. I know you know this, and I apologize for to some degree for saying it, but we have to move in steps, and we have to start from where we are now and move to the next step, whatever that is. And that's normally going to involve having better information and just being a bit more focused around that information. So again, I kind of know you know that, but if you're expecting this to be some sort of panacea, that doesn't exist on Geegeez. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And anybody who tells you it does is trying to steal your money. Okay. All right. So that's that. Now let's talk about setting up for the day. Now, before I make a bet, I want to know a few things about the day. I want to know what the weather forecast is. Well, actually, the first thing I want to know is where the racing is. Let's see if we can. So today, for instance, we've got 5 meetings and 2 this evening, and I wanted to know the forecast. Obviously, this time of year, it's changing of the seasons, and we do get horses declared on one going and the races run on a different going. So looking at the where are we now, 5:36, why don't we talk about this 5:55 race at Kempton. Now the official going is not soft. I've changed that because when I looked at the weather radar earlier, so I use a few of these little, it's just a Google search, Sunbury weather radar, and it brought me this information. You can watch an animation of it by pressing play here, and I'm not going to do that, but essentially the direction of travel is west to east, left to right, which means that at 5 o'clock, this thing here had only just hit Kempton. So actually at about 4 o'clock, this part was hitting Kempton. So they are basically going to be wet for most of the night. They were forecasting good ground prior to racing, and potential for some heavy showers this evening. Well, if they're getting the same weather that I'm getting, I'm a bit further east, they're going to get a lot. And you can see that they've watered the track on Saturday and Sunday, and it's Monday today. So there's a lot of rain on top of watered ground. My feeling, and I might be wrong, but my feeling is that it's going to be on the soft side. And I'm prepared to punt. I'm not waiting for an official announcement that the going has changed, which incidentally there might have been by now. I'm going to project based on what I know from the information that I can get. This is on the BHA website, and from the information that I can glean from publicly available weather sites. Usually I use the BBC, but I do like the radar when there's rain in the forecast, because I want to see whether it's coming in at the speed that it was forecast, and whether there's as much of it as was forecast. And in this case, it is, and there is. So yeah, so I'm working on the basis of soft ground, despite the official going having been good before the first race. It may not be good now. Just looking at the replay of that Nace race, looks like the Michael O'Callaghan favourite won. So let's have a look at this 5:55, and I'm, as I say, it was set up as a soft ground race. I beg your pardon, as a good ground race before racing began. And if you were looking at that, you'd there'd be a few horses that you'd want to make a case for, particularly if you're looking at the place view. But if you change the going to soft, and even to sort of good to soft, you can see how unsuitable that is for quite a few of the horses, or at least potentially unsuitable. For example, the favourite doesn't have a particularly good record on softer than good. Now I do think he's pretty solid in racing. I'm not convinced that will necessarily stop him from winning. What I have noticed is that the horse that I wanted to back, that I have backed, in fact, is a non-runner now, Raffle Ticket. And that's a bit disappointing, because he actually had some form on the softer side of good. as you can see here. He was a winner last time on good to soft. So yeah, well, he's a non-runner now. That's quirky. Anyway, the favourite, I thought the favourite had quite a good claim in spite of that red box for the going. You can see that 2 back here. This was over course and distance. So it's 2.25 miles at Kempton tonight, and you can see here that he unseated rider every chance when stumbled and unseated after 3 out. So he's in the straight there, I think. And then next time out over a similar trip, although on slightly better ground, he won by a couple of lengths. He's up just a small number of pounds, at like not really a material difference in his weight, and running in the same grade today as he was at Kempton when running that nice race there, class 3. So I can definitely see why he's fancied. And actually, I thought, you know, if his jumping holds up, I thought he's quite a credible winner. Joe Tizard started very well, although he's had a lot of runners in the last month. He's had 60 runners, and the winners are drying up a little bit, but percentage of rivals beaten is promising here. So that's interesting for him. Against him, I thought Raffle Ticket was an each way bet. You know, kind of the horrible each way bet to nothing, which obviously doesn't exist. But I thought he would have been very, very hard to kick out of the frame when there were. Are there still 3 places? Yeah, still 8 runners. So the other one that were a couple of other ones that were interesting. The one I don't like, so he'll probably win, is Rouge Vif. Now, this thing has been a very good horse in the past. He's been punted a few times and run really not very impressively. He must work very well at home, I think. The trainer is in good form right now. But he would be the one that I'd kind of be against. Likewise, Iconic Muddle is he's a 10-year-old now. Now Gary Moore is in absolutely outstanding form. You can see, you know, in the last year he's been punching at about 16%, and in the last month he's been at 30%, and that's on a good number of runners. And in the last fortnight at 22%. So, you know, the Moore team is in terrific form. But this lad's kind of he's not a perma winner, and when he did win, it was over shorter and on better ground. So I mean, obviously, you know, any horse can win, and he's well enough found in the market behind the favourite. But I just felt that he probably would find a way to finish 3rd or 4th again. So he wasn't for me. Family Business I thought was interesting. He obviously won on good to firm, and those races are normally a case of the horse that hates it the least rather than the horse that likes it the most. But here he won Fontwell 2.25 miles, same as this, 2.25 miles. So kind of a specialist, kind of a niche distance, really. That was on soft ground, so that wouldn't bother him unduly. He is £6 higher now, and this is a slightly higher class race. That was a class 4. This is a class 3. But that wouldn't necessarily stop him. And I just thought he was another one that second off a wind up as well. I thought that might eke out a little bit of improvement. Just looking at the time frame. So he was W, you see the W here. That means he'd had a wind up before this race. And we can see here, if we look at the time period between his previous race and the next race, i.e. when he had the wind up, that he wasn't off for very long. So what's that, about 5 weeks? So that sort of it implies, we can't know for sure, but it implies that the gravity of the wind surgery was at the less grave end, at the less interventional end, just a little tweak rather than a 3-course meal of wind surgery. That's not a very nice analogy at all, but hopefully you get the point. And he ran pretty well after that. At 2 miles, he was staying on, lost second, but kept on. I just feel like he will probably do the same again. I feel like he'll keep on again here. And he looked like the each way bet now in the absence of a raffle ticket. The other one that was a little bit interesting, so pace is a bit of a factor in this race, and it doesn't look to be loaded with pace. It looks, the pace prediction here you can see is even, and I imagine that it probably will be that. Nothing is an obvious tear away. If we look at the data view, what we're looking for is we're looking for fours. So I just put that on the data view there, and I'm looking for fours because fours mean the horse led last time, or contested the lead. And you can see that there are very few fours on there, but there's a load of threes. And my feeling is that they'll go at just a sensible gallop here. If they had gone harder, I would have been more interested in the case for Sheldon, who I think is a horse that needs a bit of a pace collapse in front of him, which I don't believe he's going to get today. So I'm a little bit against Sheldon. You can see on the Instant Expert here that Lightning Strike has been second twice here. That was both on, sorry, placed twice here, both at this distance, but both on good ground. It's a complete unknown about the ground for him. If he handles it, he's a player as well. Bundoran has never gone this far. Sorry, that's not quite true. He's run this far or around this trip 3 times, and he got whacked on each of them. You can see down here, he finished 7th, 5th, and pulled up. Now, it should be pointed out that 2 of those were grade 2s and the other one was a grade 1. So he was rated in the mid to high 150s at the time. He's now rated 130. That's because he's a 12-year-old and has usually been getting beaten, although he did pick up a little race in February. I kind of, be great. It'd actually be quite good to see that horse win, but I'm not inclined to bet him. I'm not a fan of Slate House either. I think he, I hope I'm wrong, but I think he looks gone at the game. He did win a couple of races this time last year on better ground here over this trip. So it's not beyond feasibility that he could bounce back on a track he obviously loves, but he hadn't looked particularly enthusiastic this season. And that was it. Yeah. So in the end, I think the favourite is solid. I'm against Iconic and Rouge Vif, so they'll probably finish 1st and 2nd. And I thought Family Business was pretty good bet in the absence of raffle ticket to be in the first 3, which might be a slightly snidey bet again. But yeah, he was the one of interest to me. This race is going to be off any moment, I think. 5:50. No, it's the 5:55, so it's going to be off in 5 minutes time. What I'm going to do when that race is off, I'm just going to excuse myself. I'll put the video on. I'm just going to go and sort my voice out. Got a bit of a cold at the moment, but it's obviously not on yet. So let's see what is next on our agenda. Race selection. Yeah, we can look at this pretty quickly, actually. I think it's a good thing to look at. So on race selection, one of the problems with racing, well, certainly on Saturdays and public holidays, but also, excuse me, basically from now until September, is we are going to have evening racing as well as afternoon racing. And I've just realized I didn't change the screen. I'm so sorry, guys. That's yeah, let me just quickly reprise what I was talking about there. Always something. Right. So okay, so I was making the case for Triple Trade if he handles the ground, which is a bit of an unknown. I thought he had quite a good case to be made for him on the basis of a second an unseated rider two back over this course and distance where he was going well towards the business end of the race. He then showed that was no fluke by winning last time, albeit on better ground. He's about the same rating, and I think he probably, well, he has to run well anyway if he jumps around. Against him, I didn't like Iconic Muddle, even though the trainer's in very good form, because this horse just kind of finds a way to get beaten. He's not especially well handicapped. You know, he's been running off similar marks and getting beat. He did run well over slightly further here on better ground. Just I wasn't I wasn't especially sold on him. He's a 10-year-old. He's not going to be massively improving now. Rouge Vif is a formerly very good horse. I don't really feel that. I mean, he's been bet a few times. He was 8-1 last time in a good race. Pulled up. He was 7.5-1 in a handicap hurdle. Weakened quickly. Beaten 24 lengths. In between times, he wasn't fancied, and he was well enough beaten. I just he's not really for me. And as I say, you know, he can win, but he's not for me. The one I like each way is Family Business, who is a very consistent sort, handles soft ground, has won over this trip on soft, is feasibly weighted. He was plodding on this day over 2 miles, and this is slightly further, similar ground. I think he had one on good to firm. As I said, you know, I think it was a case that he was least inconvenienced by this ground. I don't believe that jumpers should be running on good to firm. I think that's a bit of a bad look for the sport personally. But there we go. Sheldon was interesting, but only if there was a bit more pace. Now you can see there's no horse in the lead column here, which implies that it's not going to be a rapidly run contest. My feeling is that it will be, as the pace prediction says here, an even contest. You can see if I change this to the last 2 runs, it suggests possible lone speed, but still really we're looking at an even pace contest, and on average of last 4 runs it's even again. So I feel like they won't go crazy and they won't go a dawdle, but it probably, possibly, perhaps doesn't set up for these later runners here. My feeling is that these either kind of on or close to the pace are going to have, they're certainly going to have first dibs anyway, and after that we'll have to see. Family Business is the one of mild interest in the absence of Raffle Ticket, who I actually quite liked each way. I thought he was, I thought he was a pretty good bet to finish in the frame. The favourite's been very solid, and that's interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. There's about a minute to post time. Okay, right. Let me see if there are any questions. I'm so sorry about doing all that without you being able to see the screen. I hope I wasn't picking my nose or anything like that. Entirely possible. Okay, so this race is going to go off shortly. You can see they're at the start. There's 30 seconds to post time. They're removing the red hood from Light and Strike. And I think this guy here in the blue with the red sleeves and cap, Family Business, might be interesting. I hope he runs well. Trouble with these live videos is, well, you know, you can do the work, but the horses do their bit as well. So we'll have to see on that. While we're waiting for them to start, there were a couple of other things that I use when I'm setting up. So this is a Twitter feed for the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board at IHRB Race Day, and I follow them on Twitter because they tell me about non-runners, but materially they tell me about this information here is good. Following a millimetre of rain overnight, Nace remains soft to heavy in places. Currently raining, a possibility of up to 5 mil this morning, clearing thereafter. And there was a further update that said, following a further 4.5 mil of rain this morning, Nace is now soft to heavy. So, if you want to stay in touch with material changes in Ireland, then the IHRB Race Day Twitter feed is a very good one. And of course, the Geegeez Twitter feed is very helpful as well. And I'd recommend that. Every morning we publish rail movements and the weather and going and watering and so on. So that if you're looking in the morning, that's definitely something to look at. The Twitter feed, that is at Geegeez_UK. Let's see if we can close a few of these windows. Okay, this race is off. And while you watch that, and I'll come back and watch the end of it, I'm going to just step away momentarily, so please excuse me. We can see that that's Rouge Vif in front, Lighton Strike, Slate's House. Sheldon is a bit more prominent than expected. This is Bundoran. The favourite is here. Family Business in the red and blue, and on the rails is another muddle. He's gone fast on the front, has old Rouge Vif. That will be interesting. Excuse me. Well, the favourite did well, as suggested. Family Business did not do very well at all, as suggested. Well, actually, I suggested it would. What would we make of that? Family Business didn't jump, did it? and that was basically, it was cooked. Bit disappointing, but I think you can see a few things there. So what can we say about it? Sheldon ran well. Iconic Muddle plodded on as expected. Rouge Vif bombed out as expected. Slate House bombed out as expected. In fact, the only thing that I got completely wrong was the horse that I wanted to bet. So that's a bit of a shame. The Light and Strike ran pretty well. Probably didn't quite handle the ground in the end, but he ran well for a long way. And he and I think was it, yeah, he may have just held on for second with Sheldon in third. So yeah, I think it's fair to say the ground is soft there anyway. And if you are betting later on in the evening, then definitely keep that in mind. Right, let's push on. There are a few more things that I want to cover, and I don't want to keep you all night. So race selection, let's talk about that. Let me just check that you can see my screen first, having made a cock up earlier. Yes, right, race selection. Let's go to tomorrow's racing, and you can see that we've got, if I just put it on the compact view here, you can see we've got we've got 5 meetings, and then 2, 4, 6, 7. If we put that one there, 7 fives. We've got 35 races tomorrow. Nobody can look meaningfully at 35 races, I would contend, even with facilitation like Geegeez Gold. So what to do about it? Well, it depends on the kind of races that you like to look at. What I've got here is you see there's a filters option here, show filters. So I click that, and now I've got some boxes up here that I can use to whittle down these 35 races to a more manageable number. And the first thing I'm going to do, and this is kind of, my preference, and you might favor other kinds of races, so please do what suits your MO. I'm going to exclude non-handicaps to begin with, so I'm going to look only at handicap races. You can see immediately we've got a more manageable number. I'm going to look only at races up to a mile, and now we've got a more manageable number again. And I want to look at races with between 8 and 12 runners to give me kind of each way options. And from 35 races tomorrow, I'm down to 3. This is good. This is like, if I've got half an hour, even, I can have a fair go at 3 races. Another thing you can do is, once you've got down to a short list of races, if you select, you don't need to, you can do it from here. Basically, you can click the stars here. So in the drop down, you see it's all by race meeting. But if you click the stars like this, it will create a My Races option here. And you'll also see that at the top of your drop down. So rather than having to scroll down all this stuff, you can just go to your races at the top here. And you can view that by meeting. You can see My Races here, or by time, My Races here. So that's pretty nifty. So yeah, so these races are at the top. We can go to the first of them, and what's happened there? That's not right. There we go. We can have a look at that. What else do I want to say about that? Yeah, the flip side of that is, if you want to cancel a race, obviously you just uncheck those stars. And if you've got filters set up, don't forget to reset them if you want to look at all of the racing. So if I look at the card now, I've got this filtered view of the world, and it's like, well, what's going on there? If I hit the reset button here, then I've got everything back again. So don't forget to reset. That is a great way to train the mind into good discipline. So basically, we can't, how do we deal with a problem like this? When there's so much to go at, it just feels like we can't see the wood for the trees. But if you use some of these filters, and you could do it manually if you want, whatever works for you, But go through the races and star a few of them, and they'll appear at the top here and at the top of the Racecard's menu page, and then you can just focus your energies on that small subset of races rather than trying to attack everything. And as I've said before, if you actually do that, excuse me, if you focus just on 3 or 4 races, maybe if you tend to look at more races than that, and it's quite hard just to go from what you do now, which might be, you know, might be very enjoyable but not helpful for your bottom line. If you want to graduate to this kind of more selective process, then one thing you could do is just perhaps choose one race a day and spend a meaningful amount of time on that race, and then do what you normally do with the rest of the time. You know, it's got to be fun. You've got to enjoy it, and that is the most important thing. I can't guarantee you make a profit, but I can guarantee that you'll have information to help you do that, and more importantly, to help you have fun. This is your leisure time first and foremost. So please don't follow any of my advice that is going to mean that you end up not having fun doing stuff. That would be a bad thing. Okay, so that's race selection. There's lots of things you can do around that, but I think if you just focus on whittling down the day's superset of races, all of the races in a day, to a more meaningful subset, then you're going to give yourself every chance of improving your bottom line and understanding more about the races that you're focusing on, because you've got a bit more clarity in your head about that. So, okay, I think I probably labored that a bit now, but it's definitely good discipline and I recommend it. 6-10 and ace. We have got a few minutes. They're going down to the post. It's a 6 furlong handicap and basically impossible, and having flagged 2 clunkers so far, I'm on an unwelcome hat trick. The joys of live video. This is a race where I've changed it to heavy because I'm pretty sure it's desperately deep here. Now, I had put the pace analyzer on, and I'd put it on soft to heavy earlier to have a look, but there weren't any races in the subset for that going range, so that wasn't very helpful. And even extending it out, it's still a very small subset. So I don't really know what the favored pace setup is there, nor do I particularly know what's going to happen with the draw, but I do have these cool tools to help me with that. So this is the draw, and you can see that the suggestion both on the win percent, but certainly in these very small samples, I prefer PRB, percentage of rivals beaten, is that low draw may be favoured. Again, it's a tiny sample of 3 races, so you just can't get. We've got to be careful with sample sizes. This is an insignificant sample size. It's not meaningful. The suggestion is that low is favoured, but not really to any great degree. And you can see actually that the other race was won by the highest stall of all. So maybe either side is favoured, and maybe I'm trying to find a pattern when there isn't one. Looking at the form, which horses can act on heavy going, you can see that this guy here, John Riggins, has been in the frame all 3 times. Two of them here at Naas and once at Navan. They were all at 5 furlongs. This is 6 furlongs, and he was whacked, albeit under very different conditions and in an extremely valuable race. He was sent off favourite there, so he might be interesting. He'll definitely handle the ground. Whether he will stay the extra furlong, I don't know. Of the rest, if we extend out to try and get a bit more data, there's the material factor here is the ground, heavy ground. I feel, and the horses that will, the horses that might act on heavy are the ones that I'd be most interested in. So again, we've got Plunkett here, who was only beaten a couple of lengths on soft ground over 6 at Navan. was whacked here. That was 7 on heavy. Plunkett might be interesting. This is not, in the end, this is not really a betting race, but I would definitely be looking at Plunkett. I thought John Riggins was interesting, but the market can't stand him. He's been weak all day. I think I'm going to stick with Plunkett. I do love Ivor Bat, and Al Jardi has been very well backed. He ran 2 days ago, and he finished 5th in a race. He was beaten 9 lengths, but he finished 5th in this race when really he should have finished closer, because the first 6 home were drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and it was a 20-runner race. You know, he was favoured by the draw there and still didn't. I thought he should have run better. He's wheeling back quickly. That's in his favour. But I was a bit disappointed by that effort the other day. So for me, it's going to be Plunkett, whose trainer is in good recent form and whose jockey rides the track well, apparently. Let's see what happens. I think this is Plunkett with the black sleeves. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Also, it's I think it's quite good discipline to watch races without the commentary. I think you tend to see more because you're following your own eyes rather than the commentator's words. Particularly if you're doing a form review, if you're watching races back again afterwards, definitely watch them with the sound down. You'll definitely see more in the race. So you can see we've got a difference of opinion here. They've gone kind of, well, they've shunned the inside rail here, which they tend to do at Nace these days. You've got some up the high rail here and some down the middle. Plunkett is going to finish last. This is good, isn't it? This is Al Jardi in the blue. I still can't call the winner. Maybe this guy here. Yeah, definitely this guy here. No. Yes. I couldn't have a bet in that race. I didn't have a clue. I think that was the Lupini horse, wasn't it? Blairmain. Number 4. Yeah, 11-1. Now, Blairmain's quite an interesting horse, actually, because if you look at my report angles, and I'm going to show you that in a second, you can see the number 6 in there. And if you look at the other boxes, there was a 2 for Plunkett, a couple of 1s, and some 0s. This 6 means that Blairmain ticked a box on 6 of my 6 different reports, and these are them. So his record against his opponents today was good. 14. He'd met rivals in this race 21 times before and beaten them on 14 occasions. The trainer has a very good record at the track, profitable. Trainer jockey combination, Lupini with Lorden, very good. Jockey stats generally, Lorden's stats generally good. He rides for Aidan O'Brien, so that definitely helps. And the trainer snippets here in sprint races and off a layoff, all positives for this horse today. I short stacked myself with time before the race, so I didn't mention it, but there we are. So that's Blairmain. That was an 11-1 winner. Didn't show up terribly on Instant Expert. You can see track record 1, 2, 3 wins at the track and another couple of places. So Blairmain was definitely a horse that you could have got if you weren't listening to me. And yeah, that's probably a nice segue into report angles. So when I'm talking about setting up Geegeez, I've shown you the my Geegeez, which is this is the fundamental setup, is get the race cards looking how you want them to using this bit here. But if you want to have insights like Blair Main, then if you go to the reports menu item and under angles, you can see all our reports are listed here. Under angles, we've got report angles settings page and report angles report. So let's go to the settings page. This is quite a busy old page, but it breaks down into a few clear sections. So on the left hand side, we've got a list of the reports that are included inside report angles, and those are them. And you can turn them all on or off using these buttons here. And then for each report, in this case, we've got jockey statistics selected. There are the sub reports. So if I go to the jockey statistics report, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different time periodicities that I can select for this report. So I can look at the 14-day jockey form or the course 5-year jockey form, for instance. We have most of those here. We haven't got the 1-year jockey form, but we've got the course 1 year and course 5 year and the 14 and 30 days. And you can turn all those on like that. You can see that those buttons are populated, and off like that. I have these two set up like that. And when you're happy with what you've got, and you can change the filters for each of these settings. So in the case of course 1 year form, this is jockeys. I want the jockey to have ridden the track at least 15 times and have an AE and IV of these numbers. If you don't know what AE and IV mean, there's a just search on Google and you'll on Geegeez search and you'll find that they're metrics about profitability and how often something happens compared to everybody else. They're good numbers, and anything above 1 is a positive. So I have these set up like this. If you're not sure how to set this up, just use the defaults and just turn them all on. And then what you'll get is you'll get a report that looks like this. The report angles report, and it's a very busy report. So even with my relative selectivity, there's a lot of data in this report. Nobody can meaningfully use all of this information, but as you saw with Miss Lupini's horse in the 610 race there, this data also populates itself in the race card itself, and this is how I use it. So I couldn't use it. Oh, that's the wrong page. I couldn't use it in the report itself because there's just too much stuff going on there. It's impossible. But in the actual race that I'm looking at, it's easy enough to do that. So, excuse me. So report angles is something to definitely set up. And as I say, you can, the beauty of it is once it's set up, you never have to do anything with it again, unless you want to tweak it. So I would suggest starting with the defaults, just turn them on and save the settings, and then you'll get a very long report angles report. But in every race card, you'll see some red numbers. And when you play around with that for a little while, you'll quickly get to a point where you say, well, that information is not, it's there, but I'm never really taking any notice of it. I'm not interested in that. So you can go in here and you can just tidy it up to suit the things that you're interested in. Report angles is something that you can't get anywhere else. You can't get these specific inline snippets anywhere else. It's certainly not in the UK. It's really, specific information to you, and it's really powerful, the insights that it can provide. So it's definitely worth 10 or 15 minutes of your time to set this stuff up. It's set and forget. Once you've done it, it's done. So I would encourage you very much to get involved with that. I was going to have a quick look at query tool angles, but we're not going to have enough time tonight for that. The one thing I do want to show you is I want to have a look at a couple of races tomorrow. The first one is at Epsom, and it's the city and suburban handicap. Easy for me to say. That's a 10 furlong handicap. The going is currently showing as good to soft, but Epsom is now. Where's that gone? Here we are. Epsom is not far from Sunbury. So all that rain that landed in Kempton, most of it, or maybe more of it, will have landed in Epsom as well. So that good to soft is going to change. It's definitely going to be softer tomorrow. So again, we know this now. So how can we use this early awareness to our advantage? Well, if you look at the Epsom card here, you can see that the going is set to good to soft. We can just change that to soft. For instance, you might think, well, we change it to heavy, but we change it to soft. And then when we go to the race card and look at something like the Instant Expert, it's already populating soft ground data there. And if we look at full form based on going, it's going to show us the runs on soft ground. So for this horse, which is Harrovian, ran not well at all on its sole start on soft. So that's a really powerful leg up that we have there. There is a horse running in this race tomorrow, and that's Bad Company, who's got a pretty good record at Epsom because his trainer, Jim Boyle, trains at Epsom. But the question is, does he handle wet ground? So why don't we just have a look at his course record, and we can see that he's at 10 furlongs. He's been beaten 3 lengths, half a length. That wasn't so good there. 7.5 lengths, 5, and then he won over the Derby trip on heavy ground, so he'll handle the ground fine. I think he's probably quite interesting tomorrow. I can't remember what the horse profile is off the top of my head, but you definitely get that heavy ground line is interesting. One other thing to think about at Epsom specifically is the first race is straight track, 5 furlongs, straight down and then up again. But when the ground is wet at Epsom, in case you didn't see what I did there, I just clicked on the course info button over here. They tend to come down the stand side here. So basically the home straight cambers, it's highest near the stands rail and lowest near the inside rail. So the water, when it's wet, drains down the camber. So what they tend to do is they tend to come off the bend here, and then there's a bun fight as they try to get to the rail here, the a relative golden highway. So that'll be something to look out for if you're watching the racing at Epsom tomorrow, is that gravitation over towards the far rail, if it's as wet as I suspect it is, and it might not be. So again, check the forecast in the morning, check the official going. But in this race, I definitely want a horse that handles soft, rightly or wrongly. I'm trying to get an edge on the market. I'm trying to get an early sight. And the two, let's just put it on that for a minute. The 3 that are of interest: Bad Company is interesting, Fantastic Fox is interesting, and Law Protector is kind of interesting. But this 0 from 5 in Class 2 is a bit off-putting. So I'm going to, if it's 0 from 1 or 0 from 2, you can probably make excuses or find other reasons why that horse was unsuited on that day. But when it's 0 from 5, and he's been beaten far enough in most of those runs, with the exception of the Goodwood run, I'm not inclined to make excuses for that horse. So that's the one that will probably win tomorrow. Just looking at Instant Expert, Soto Sizzler obviously has a phenomenal track record. 1-1, 2-2, 1-2, all of it on quicker ground, most of it at further. Yeah, I'd be worried about that, particularly with the 0 from 2 whacked both times on softer. So that might end up being a non-runner. I think Bad company. I hope. Like I say, I'm not sure what the profile is off the top of my head for horse profiles, but he's definitely one to have a look at. And I think Fantastic Fox is probably the other one as well. That was a valuable race there. Handles soft, handles even softer than soft. Yeah, he'd be interesting. We want to look at a few other things if there was more time, but just given the time that we've got now, I think I'd definitely be looking at Fantastic Fox. He's got a draw that you can probably get over here. The favourite is Educator, who's, if I'm right about the ground, he's on the wrong side. He's going to have to manoeuvre across. Might be a very smart horse for all I know, but that doesn't look obviously a positive for the favourite there. Whereas, particularly if Soto comes out, and that's massive conjecture on my part, but if he does, Fantastic Fox is only 2 off the rail. So, yeah, interesting. That was one of the races I wanted to look at. There were 2 other. One of them was Yarmouth. Now, Yarmouth was heavy already, and if I don't know if that rain's going to peter out before it gets to the East Coast, but they could be in a bit of trouble. Which race was I looking at? 5:35. This is a 5 furlong sprint, straight track, 5 furlongs at Yarmouth. There are a couple of interesting horses in here. So that the most interesting one I thought was Chris Dwyer's horse, Espirito Moreno. I almost certainly mispronounced that. Chris Dwyer has a very good record at Yarmouth, as you can see. In the last 5 years, he's got better than 20% win rate. Backs that up with a better than 40% place rate. Good numbers all the way across. Now, this horse is a big price, and it might be useless. It's having its first run in a handicap today, which I thought was interesting. You can see it's been beaten 21, 13.5, and 15 lengths. And those were in 5 furlong races. There's nothing there that would make you think this horse has got any ability. But if we look at the handicap first run report, there's just a glimmer of light. You can put it on the tomorrow button and you can select Yarmouth here. And then we can see that we've got, in the last 2 years, Chris Dwyer has run 11 horses for the first time in a handicap, and 2 of them have won. And if we click this little up arrow by the side of his name, it will show us the 11 horses in question. Now, I had a look at the one that was a similar price that won, this Global Tycoon, won in June last year. It was 12-1 when he won. I just typed him into the box there, pulled up his full form, and I wanted to look at his 3 runs before. And he basically was very big prices on the second 2, and he was beaten 12.5, 9, and 22. And then he came out and won at 12-1. And you can see that there's a steward's comment there. The winner, Global Tycoon, appeared to show an improvement in form compared with its previous run at Wolverhampton on 17th of May 2022, where the gelding finished 7th of 8, beaten 22 lengths. The explanation from the representative of Chris Dwyer that Global Tycoon had been slowly away in its previous appearance had also suffered slight interference approximately 3 furlongs out from another runner pulling up due to being lame was noted. In other words, that these horses can show big improvement, and then when they're asked about that, generally, in fairness, it is very difficult for the stewards to challenge meaningfully what a trainer or a trainer's representative says about improvement. This horse might not be very good. The thing with a horse like this is 16-1. You have to take a view about whether this is going to be a binary bet. It's either going to run pretty well or it's going to run terribly. And the balance of probabilities are probably that it's going to run terribly. I don't know what price it is. Let's have a look. yeah, it's not, there's no early blue for it. So I'd be looking for a few little chips away at it, and you could perhaps take an absolute flyer at 16s, but it might go off at 50-1. That's the trouble. So it's probably better to wait until the morning. I just thought it's a very weak, it's a 0 to 52 handicap. None of these are superstars. And he is the least exposed horse in the race. He's only had 3 tries in his life. Some of these horses have run, the Tron must have run, he's run 34 times. Autumn Flight has run 61 times. These horses are what they are, and they may or may not be the winners on the day. Espiritu Moreno has only run 3 times. He might be just not a good horse, but he's the horse that can improve the most, albeit from a very, very low base. Autumn Flight has got a bit of heavy ground form, a bit of track form, and loads of 5 furlong form, as we saw. He's a million miles below his last winning rating, and this is his last winning turf rating, and that for me is normally a warning sign. If they're like within a few pounds, that's okay, but when they're miles away like this, it's a bit of a danger. Nevertheless, it's a terrible race, and I think he's got a bit of a chance. So I just wanted to flag Espirito Moreno there. And then there was one other race that I thought was worth a mention, Wolverhampton. It's another low grade handicap, 6 furlongs this time. It's a 0 to 55. Again, lots of horses who have run plenty of times already. This was interesting, I thought, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if we look at the pace map here, you can see that the place to be is on the lead. And you can see that it looks fairly likely, not certain, but fairly likely that May Remain, ridden by El May Croot, will make the lead, even though this horse is drawn quite wide in 10. There's not much obvious pace inside it. If we look at the last 2 runs, you can see that there's, these horses have not been trying to get to the lead recently. That can change. Of course it can change, but based on what we know of recent history, May Remain and El May Croot are going to go forward. That's an advantage over this course and distance. Can they stay there in such a big field? Who knows? But in the last 2 runs, over course and distance, 2 back, same jockey did the same thing, had to contest the lead there, and was able to repel the entire field and stick on well, won by more than a length in the end. Dropped back to 5 last time, had the pace to lead at 5, so that's definitely suggests this is a fast horse early, certainly in the context of a 6 furlong 0 to 55. Again, had the pace to lead and got it done. The trainer is in very good recent form, and yeah, this horse should, assuming it doesn't fluff the start, should again run pretty well. Now, there are a couple that I thought were interesting against it. If you look down the card here, you can see these little go faster stripes on Fristel, Pandemic Princess, and Billion, and they tell us that these are sectional horse fast finishers. I just want to quickly look at the fast finisher report, which is FF when you're on the reports page, or any page within any report within the reports system. And I want to look at tomorrow. I just need to make it a bit smaller, but you can see all the horses now. Now in this 9 o'clock, you can see that there are those 3, and also Griggy is in there as well. What I want to share with you is that a horse, essentially, if we want a horse to replicate what it did last time, and this report is basically saying that these horses ran more than 2.5% quicker than the race finishing time in the closing section in the race in question. So if we want the horse to be able to finish with the same kind of rattle, we need to be looking for a race that is run at the same kind of tempo. So for instance, in the case of Griggy, the race finishing speed was 103%, and Griggy finished at 106%. That race was quite slowly run early, and as a consequence of horses saving their petrol early, it was quite fast run late. In the case of, let's use this Gustav Graves example here, you can see it was fast early, and the race finishing speed was 97%, below 100%, and it was quite slow late. And this horse just finished closer to 100%. So we need to know what the race tempo is going to be today in this race here. And looking at this, it's possible that another Angel tries to get across as well, and these two go forward, even though they're both drawn really wide. I think the pace would be even to fast. I don't think it'll be breakneck, but even to fast. And I think they might finish maybe slightly below 100%. And if that happens, then, and again, you know, you have to make your own judgment on this. You have to use this information in the way that you understand it. But for me, I'd be looking at Billion, which won its last race in when the pace was it says even, but it was slightly faster than ideal early, and this horse was still able to finish with plenty of gusto. And we do like a horse that finishes with plenty of gusto. So Billion, you can see he's a late runner by nature, and one of the problems with that is that they tend to get there too late, as he had done thrice before putting it right in a similar race. In fact, in a classified stakes, a slightly lower grade race than this last time. Trap 11 is probably not a problem for a horse that is a late runner anyway, and if there is any pace to aim at, I think Billion, ridden by the excellent Ben Curtis, will probably find a way to be on the premises late. Maybe too late, but there or thereabouts. The other horse that I thought was interesting in the same context was Fristel, ridden by David Probert. And you can see that he's not been beaten far in his last three runs, a length and 3/4, 3.5 last time. That was a bit disappointing. If we click the show sectionals button here, you can see that 2 back, he got a gold go faster, and that means he was the fastest finisher in the race. And if you look at those superscript numbers there, you can see from left to right, he was 5.5 lengths behind the leader at the first point of call, 6 lengths behind the leader at the second, 5.5 at the third, and then by the line, he'd got to within a length of 3/4. So he'd done a lot of late work here with a quite fast early pace, and that might be how it sets up here. That's what I think will probably happen, quite fast, even quite slow. So Fristel, that's probably his optimal setup, and if I'm right about that, then he may also have a bit of a chance tomorrow in a race where we definitely shouldn't be going crazy. I mean, it's 6-1 the field, but those 3 horses may remain. Billion may remain from the front, and Billion and Fristel closing down, I thought were quite interesting horses. There are others in there that you might find interesting as well, in what is obviously a very competitive race. Okay, I am conscious of the time. We've been going quite a long time. There were a few other things I wanted to show you. I'll probably do a follow-up either later in the week or early next week. I have got, where are we? Let me just hide that. Okay. So if you've been following the horse profile stuff, I hope you've been enjoying that. I hope you maybe had a small each way bet on Baryshnikov today. If not, I'm sure there's loads of winners to come in the horse profiles through the season. It does normally take a few weeks for the form to settle down, not just with the horse profiles, but generally. So it's not, it's not a straightforward game at this time of year. Some horses are ready from the get-go. Some horses need a run or two before they hit their stride. and you can often tell that from trainer forms. It's definitely worth looking out for those kind of things this time of year. Tomorrow I've got something that I think is going to help quite a lot with horse profiles, with finding the horses each day. So I'm not going to share any more about that right now, but that should be interesting to you, I hope. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to make an offer for anybody who's not currently a Geegeez Gold subscriber to come on board. I hope it's a compelling offer. It's definitely a great value offer. It's an offer that won't be repeated, well, probably ever. So if you've been thinking about Geegeez Gold, then this is definitely the time to really take action on those thoughts. But more on that in a couple of days. Like I say, I've got something for you tomorrow which will help with horse profiles. For now, thank you very much for watching and for bearing with me for the usual technical faux pas. And this is Matt Bisogno saying thanks again and goodbye for now.